Welcome again, fellow Star Wars fans. Today, we'll explore the intriguing galaxy of unfinished and abandoned Star Wars films. This video is going to take you on a tour through the unknown stories that had the potential to alter the course of this insanely popular series. From neglected ideas to abandoned initiatives, the Star Wars world has seen a fair amount of unfinished duels, teasing fans with hints of what could have been. The franchise is littered with unfulfilled potential, ranging from daring spin-offs to long-lost trilogies. Follow us as we delve into the exciting history of these unfinished and cancelled films. We'll look into a few classic trilogy series that promise to transport us far into the galaxy's dark underbelly. We'll also find out the truth about the unfinished solo flicks. Unproduced Star Wars films are a treasure trove of brilliant ideas and lost possibilities. It's remarkable to consider the several courses the franchise may have gone on, had any of these films come to fruition. So, pick up your lightsaber and get ready for an adventure into the world of unmade Star Wars films. This video will leave you reflecting on a galaxy far, far away that could have been, from lost gems to unfulfilled promises. Let's get started. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. 1. George Lucas's Star Wars sequel trilogy. Fans' minds have long contemplated the unknown corners of unmade and shelved movies in the enormous galaxy of Star Wars. George Lucas had lofty ambitions for future trilogies, even before the classic first trilogy was completed, tempting us with the prospect of more adventures. According to rumors, Episode 7 could have followed Luke's journey as a Jedi, revealing a mystery sister, before concluding in a cinematic showdown with the Emperor. Some of these concepts, which were meant for future films, made their way into Return of the Jedi, the epic climax to the original trilogy. Lucas was criticized for his indecisiveness, frequently changing his ideas about the Star Wars saga's course. His original plans for a second trilogy changed when Lucas surrendered the Star Wars licenses and Lucasfilm to Disney. Furthermore, in the 1990s, the prequel series took precedence, moving the spotlight away from future sequels. Though the unfinished Star Wars films remain an intriguing what-if, fans could possibly discover echoes of these concepts across the series. The influence of George Lucas's initial ideas, as well as the continued growth of the Star Wars world, continue to fire our imaginations, guaranteeing that the Force remains with us. 2. Star Wars Boba Fett spin-off movie. Following the enormous popularity of Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, the Star Wars anthology films were slated to enter a new era. Rogue One, which was released in 2016, received both critical praise and economic success. It was one of a series of films aimed at expanding the Star Wars world outside the Skywalker saga. On the other hand, the box office failure of Solo, A Star Wars Story forced Lucasfilm to reconsider its expectations for future anthology projects. This decision basically put a halt to multiple projects, including a long-awaited standalone picture for Boba Fett, initially scheduled for 2013. The production of the Boba Fett film was hampered when filmmaker Josh Trank left, owing to creative issues. James Mangold was invited on board as screenwriter and director in a final attempt to save the movie. Unfortunately, the Boba Fett project was officially cancelled in October 2018, marking the final stage of its voyage to the big screen. This turn of events, however, prompted Lucasfilm to redirect its efforts to Disney Plus and the production of The Mandalorian show. The Mandalorian, centered around the Star Wars universe, gave the story of Boba Fett new life and substance. The show's excellent responses and rising popularity spawned a spin-off series named The Book of Boba Fett. The next chapter of the iconic bounty hunter's adventure, following Return of the Jedi, bears promise as it delves into Star Wars' New Republic era. Despite the cancellation of the Boba Fett standalone feature, we believe that this new Star Wars series will find new ways to attract fans and greatly expand the scope of its universe. 3. Zack Snyder's Star Wars Rebel Moon. During the period between the completion of the prequel trilogy and Disney's takeover of Lucasfilm, famed filmmaker Zack Snyder allegedly contacted the production company with his own distinct concept for a fascinating sci-fi feature. Snyder's vision, influenced by Akira Kurosawa's works, aims to provide a more adult and thought-provoking perspective on the vast scope of the galaxy far, far away. However, due to a variety of issues, including an absence of interest and the later purchase of Lucasfilm by Disney, the venture never went beyond preliminary talks. Undaunted, Snyder spent the next decade refining and rethinking his initial approach, eventually developing it into a mesmerizing and unique masterpiece. Snyder's ambitious efforts found its ultimate home on Netflix. The movie, now titled Rebel Moon, has been divided into 2 separate installments, with the first premiering exclusively on Netflix around December 2023. Since the unveiling of Rebel Moon, a discussion has raged over the possible visual and narrative aspects of a Star Wars movie directed by Snyder. On the other hand, Snyder has remarked on the aesthetic mismatch between his style and the existing Star Wars world, admitting that their creative taste may not have been harmoniously matched. In retrospect, this separation of perspectives may have been a fortunate move, limiting the production of high-budget movies that appeal to a very small audience. As we anxiously await the release of Rebel Moon, we can respect Snyder's creative talents and rejoice that his original concept has found an appropriate site to develop and flourish. 4. A Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy. Johnson served as both writer and filmmaker for the second film in the popular franchise's sequel trilogy, Star Wars The Last Jedi, which was released in 2017. The film sparked tremendous debate among fans while also getting critical acclaim and box office success. Lucasfilm first announced an arrangement with Johnson for an additional Star Wars trilogy, apart from the Skywalker saga, concentrating on new characters and uncharted settings. However, there has been no movement on this initiative since its first announcement in 2017. The fundamental reason for Johnson's intended trilogy's delay is a typical one: his hectic schedule. Due to other obligations, the fulfillment of the idea he had inside the Star Wars world has remained elusive. Despite this issue, the prospect of seeing Johnson's distinct take on the series is unquestionably exciting. The thought of new films focusing on new characters produced by such a skilled filmmaker would be an exciting development, especially given the Star Wars saga's future on the big screen. Despite the fact that Lucasfilm has multiple Star Wars ventures in the works, they must make room for Rian Johnson to make a return to the enthralling galaxy far, far away. The prospect of his trilogy ultimately being realized has enormous promise, pouring fresh meaning into the constantly growing Star Wars world and providing spectators with a new perspective. 5. Damon Lindelof's Star Wars epic. Lucasfilm had planned an intriguing post-sequel tale centered on Rey's quest to re-establish the Jedi Order. During SWCE 2023, a pitch for a film based on this premise was made. Damon Lindelof was initially associated with the project. Rumors stated that Lindelof's script will include an older version of Rey, set 60 years following the events of Star Wars The Force Awakens. However, it was rumored that Lindelof had left the project owing to creative disputes with filmmaker Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. The tensions between Obaid-Chinoy and Lindelof, as well as Lucasfilm's dissatisfaction with Lindelof's first draft, drove the company to fire him for good and hire screenwriter Stephen Knight to revamp the script. Whether any of Lindelof's original concepts will be included in the finished movie is unknown. The film has since been officially announced, with Daisy Ridley continuing her role. However, Lindelof's base idea for the movie was scrapped in favor of a new approach. The tale is now taking place 15 years after the conclusion of Star Wars The Force Awakens. The forthcoming film will explore Rey's quest to build a new Jedi Order. The next chapter of the Jedi Order and Rey's journey will be tackled in new and intriguing ways, providing fans with a distinct viewpoint on the post-sequel world. As more facts surface, fans anxiously await the outcome of the latest installment of the Star Wars narrative. 6. Star Wars Rogue Squadron. In a surprise transformation of events, Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy released a thrilling reveal in December 2020, stating that Patty Jenkins will direct a forthcoming Star Wars movie dubbed Rogue Squadron. This solo adventure was initially scheduled for debut in 2023 and claimed to usher in a new breed of brave fighter pilots, bringing in a new era for the Star Wars universe. However, the development of Rogue Squadron was fraught with difficulties. The project faced various roadblocks, ranging from screenplay modifications to Jenkins' obligations with DC Studios. Disney decided to pull Rogue Squadron from its anticipated December 2023 date of release in September 2022. According to the sources connected to the production, the movie is no longer officially being produced at the studio. Given the previous delays in 2021 and additional postponements later that year, this current development is not entirely unexpected. Jenkins herself voiced doubt about the film's prospects in December, noting the uncertainties surrounding its completion. As viewers, we're now put in a state of limbo about the destiny of the Rogue Squadron. Nonetheless, while they might not come to fulfillment as initially planned, we can still hope for further positive developments, or maybe even an OTT release. 7. D.B. Weiss and David Benioff Star Wars Trilogy. In 2018, acclaimed creators David Benioff and D.B. Weiss headed into the intricate world of Star Wars, attracting the interest of both fans and industry insiders. The pair's arrival sparked tremendous excitement as word spread that the duo had been hired to put together and write a trilogy that differed immensely from the classic Skywalker saga. Speculation suggested that their films might take place in the future or dig into the secrets of a bygone era, but no specifics about the plot were revealed before the project was cancelled. At the time of their hiring, Benioff and Weiss had just crested the high of the television show's enormous popularity, which held the honor of being the most widely watched series on television. Their integration into the Star Wars world appeared to be an intriguing new element for the studio. However, speculations arose that the pair's $200 million production agreement with Netflix prompted a decision for them to terminate their Star Wars project. Furthermore, some fans believe Lucasfilm's newfound reluctance to continue working with them was motivated by the poor critical reaction around the conclusion of the duo's last TV program, which aired barely 5 months previously. It's worth noting that these statements are just hypothetical and unproven. Their involvement with the series slipped into the background as the years progressed. Benioff and Weiss are yet to develop any significant projects since the announcement of their participation in Star Wars, including the previously scheduled Star Wars series. 8. Colin Trevorrow's Star Wars Episode 9 Duel of the Fates. Colin Trevorrow, a filmmaker, was named as the director of Star Wars Episode 9 in 2015. Trevorrow, however, chose to leave the venture in August 2017, owing to artistic disagreements. The precise reasons for his resignation were never made public. However, rumors stated that Trevorrow's script fell short of the studio's requirements. While facts concerning Trevorrow's Star Wars 9 are hypothetical, leaked material sheds insight into his proposed plot. According to the sources, the film would have taken place in the galactic system where the First Order regulated communication conduits, dividing planets from one another. By attacking the First Order's base on Coruscant, the Resistance conceivably battled to restore communication and liberate the galaxy. Finn's storyline involves assembling a rebel unit of converted stormtroopers. At the same time, Rey sets out to discover Mortis and finally confront Kylo Ren. Following Snoke's death in The Last Jedi, Kylo Ren would have been the principal enemy in Trevorrow's vision. He would have been exposed as Rey's parents' killer, and the Emperor might have been referenced, but not revived, as shown in The Rise of Skywalker. Rey's ultimate win over Kylo would cost her her vision, but her actual name, Rey Solana, would be revealed. Rey would then re-establish the Jedi Order, integrating both the light and dark sides of the Force, in order to keep the galaxy at peace. While the lead screenplay of Star Wars Duel of the Fates might have piqued fans' interest, it's crucial to remember that the tale would have required changes, especially after Carrie Fisher's untimely death. Regardless, Trevorrow's approach seemed to be a more natural progression of Rian Johnson's Star Wars The Last Jedi. Trevorrow's early draft appeared to give a more unified story for the sequel trilogy than The Rise of Skywalker. In the end, with The Rise of Skywalker, the road of Star Wars Episode 9 takes a completely different turn, finishing the Skywalker saga in an entirely different way. However, it is always fascinating to consider alternate possibilities and speculate on what may have happened in the galaxy far, far away. 9. Obi-Wan Kenobi Trilogy movies. There were initial conversations in the Star Wars universe about adapting Obi-Wan Kenobi's life story for the big screen. Stephen Daldry said in August 2017 that he would be involved in the making of the spin-off film focusing on Obi-Wan Kenobi. The film, Obi-Wan Kenobi: A Star Wars Story, was an element of Disney's plan to release one Star Wars movie every year. The project writers envisioned a story arc that would explore Obi-Wan's character development, leading up to his ultimate sacrifice aboard the Death Star in A New Hope. The script was written by screenwriter Hossein Amini. Unfortunately, the project was terminated due to the poor box office success of Solo: A Star Wars Story. Additionally, Stuart Beattie, one of the film's writers, disclosed that the original plan was to produce an Obi-Wan Kenobi trilogy and not just a standalone film. However, circumstances forced a shift in the project's focus. The concept was eventually redesigned and turned into the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series, which debuted on Disney Plus in 2022. The shift from a movie trilogy to a Disney Plus television series has made for a way more in-depth study of Obi-Wan's tale, enthralling fans with his encounters and exploits in the Star Wars world. There have been hints that a second season of the series will be developed, significantly expanding on Obi-Wan's journey. While the particular elements and plot of the initial trio of films remain unclear, it is exciting to consider what Obi-Wan Kenobi's character and his adventures in a galaxy far, far away would have looked like on the big screen. 10. Star Wars Mos Eisley Spaceport movie. There had been hints of a prospective production focusing on the legendary Mos Eisley Spaceport among the swirling theories about the possible future of Star Wars standalone films. This historic locale has an important place in cinematic history, having been enshrined in the very first 1977 Star Wars film. In 2018, news broke regarding a potential anthology film starring Mos Eisley. However, when the larger intentions for the Star Wars universe changed and these offshoot films were scrapped, the Mos Eisley idea was left to rumor and speculation. There were even rumors that Lucasfilm had acquired slots at Pinewood Studios to begin production on an unnamed project, probably assumed to be the Mos Eisley project. Unfortunately, current sources suggest that this booking has been called off and the films will not be released. While it is not impossible that Disney and Lucasfilm were discussing the prospect of a Mos Eisley film, the future remains largely unknown. From a narrative standpoint, returning to this renowned locale would be appealing, especially given Han Solo's likely participation, with clues of Han's meeting with a big-time monster on Tatooine at the conclusion of Solo, a Star Wars story. It would be a logical match for him to re-emerge within Mos Eisley's environment. Furthermore, few Star Wars places maintain as much fascination in terms of fan service as the treacherous and grimy spaceport of Tatooine. However, if the reports are legitimate, the Mos Eisley feature is no longer in the works at Lucasfilm. While fans may bemoan the loss of a Mos Eisley-centric endeavor, the galaxy far, far away still provides limitless possibilities for storytelling and exploration. 11. Jabba the Hutt film. The intriguing endeavor involving Jabba the Hutt is one that has generally evaded the spotlight so far. Despite his notable appearance in the very first trilogy, the legendary slug-like space mobster has yet to have his own solo film or series. This begs the question of what happened to the much-awaited Jabba the Hutt project. Details regarding this project are limited, with little information accessible other than its presence being recognized in a 2017 report. The statement hinted at the possibility of a standalone feature starring Jabba the Hutt, which would join the lineup of a Star Wars story films that Lucasfilm was working on at that time. On the outside, this may appear to be an unusual selection for a spin-off, considering that the Hutt's sole objective is to accumulate riches, influence, and power. But when we take into account Guillermo del Toro's involvement, the idea makes a fascinating turn. In 2015, the imaginative filmmaker offered his own Jabba the Hutt movie concept. Del Toro, known for his enthralling monster designs and tales, might have introduced a more sinister and sophisticated tone to the Star Wars world. Considering a Jabba the Hutt movie under his supervision gives us the prospect of a grim and fascinating plot, reminiscent of a mafia-style storyline set amid the criminal underground. While precise narrative specifics are unknown, it is logical to suppose that a Jabba the Hutt production would have gone deep into the Star Wars galaxy's criminal underbelly. It would have been a logical route to pursue, given Jabba's frightening status for being one of the galaxy's deadliest criminals. At the time, the criminal aspects of the Star Wars world were primarily used as filler, with no specific concern for the big screen. A Jabba tale would surely have provided insight into the Hutt cartel, along with other criminal networks, bringing this part of the galaxy to the limelight. Unfortunately, no additional updates or advances have come to light since then, indicating that this endeavor may have been another victim of Disney's reorganization following the premiere of Solo. 12. J.D. Dillard's Star Wars movie. Director J.D. Dillard was said to be working on an exciting space-themed film in February 2020. The statement came about after the release of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. He began on an artistic journey with screenwriter Matt Owens, who alluded to something completely novel in the Star Wars world. When approached about the endeavor, Dillard elected not to reveal too many specifics in order to retain a sense of mystery. He did, however, note that the popular computer game TIE Fighter was helpful in molding his vision. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 epidemic struck immediately after news of this venture broke, causing the closing of theatrical venues and halting of film projects globally. During the 2020 Disney investor call, Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy announced many forthcoming Star Wars productions, but made no reference to Dillard's film. After the premiere of his last movie in November 2022, Dillard announced that his Star Wars movie was no longer in the works. He voiced his disappointment, claiming that, despite his attempts to bring it back to life, it was no longer a thing. On the other hand, Dillard's enthusiasm for space-themed fiction continues, and he has indicated an interest in exploring a fresh concept in the area. The project's fate is unknown, whether it is now in progress with a new filmmaker or has been completely abandoned. 13. Splinter of the Mind's Eye. George Lucas had a backup plan in place during the early phases of the Star Wars saga, when its popularity was in doubt. Alan Dean Foster was hired to write a novel version of the original Star Wars movie, as well as a prospective sequel titled Splinter of the Mind's Eye. The novel's plot sent Luke and Leia to the world of Mimban in pursuit of the Kyber Crystal, a powerful artifact thought to increase the Jedi's Force skills. Based on the book, a low-budget sequel could be explored if the film failed to connect with moviegoers. The book, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, was the first in what is now known as the Expanded Universe. However, Star Wars' popularity surpassed all predictions, allowing Lucas to broaden his concept for the sequel. Mimban ultimately debuted in Solo, a Star Wars story, and the Kyber Crystal grew into the Kyber Stone, which plays an integral part in the Star Wars canon. Kyber crystals were made to fuel Jedi lightsabers and serve as the Death Star's principal energy source. Notably, the character of Han Solo was not featured in the Splinter of the Mind's Eye book due to Harrison Ford's original commitment to only one Star Wars film. Nonetheless, the massive success of Star Wars encouraged Lucas to expand the plot on a much larger scale, opening the way for additional exploits and the rich tapestry that is now the iconic world of Star Wars. 14. George Lucas's Untitled Droids movie. Following the massive success of Star Wars in 1977, creator George Lucas began looking for new ways to expand the Star Wars world. Among his lofty plans was a possible spin-off focusing only on the much-adored droids. This novel idea would have looked into the lives of legendary characters such as C-3PO and R2-D2, providing a fresh take on their experiences. The planned droid-only feature attempted to elicit an emotional response from moviegoers by capitalizing on the deep connection that fans feel for these robotic beings. In the film, the droids would have taken center stage, displaying their relationships with each other without the presence of organic living beings. The droids' communication would have been made understandable to the audience, letting viewers make sense of their dialogues and experiences. The idea behind this project was to create a very different story that explored the dynamics and interactions amongst droids when they were left to themselves by humans. It would have given us a view into their world, a facet of the universe that makes up Star Wars that had only been hinted at in the previous films, notably via the experiences of C-3PO and R2-D2. Although George Lucas mentioned it in a few interviews after the launch of A New Hope, the film eventually vanished from talks and preparations after The Empire Strikes Back. The droid-only film never came to fruition, and its promise went untapped. Fans, however, need not despair, since the new Disney Plus animated film, A Droid Story, appears to be filling the empty space in our hearts. While it takes an alternative route, it promises to immortalize the essence of our favorite droids while leading us on a new journey in the Star Wars world. 15. A Wookiee Movie. Before stepping away from the Star Wars series in the later 80s and early 90s, Lucas hinted at future films that mirrored the eventual idea of Disney's Star Wars offshoots. In a statement from 1980, Lucas showed commitment to a Star Wars film focusing entirely on Wookiees, with no other characters. Instead of focusing on Chewbacca or his family, his initial concept examined the possibilities of an anthropological examination of Wookiees. While the specific plot remains unclear, the Wookiee world of Kashyyyk served as an excellent setting for a Wookiee-centric drama. The planet's past of invasions and uprisings provided sufficient material for a gripping plot that dived into Wookiee culture, with spectacular action sequences and the traditional Star Wars theme of rebels versus oppressors. Given the limitation of language, such a film would need skilled visual storytelling, as spectators would be unable to comprehend the Wookiee language. This venture offered a fantastic chance to develop something fascinating and slightly avant-garde inside the Star Wars universe. This movie might have become a very intriguing venture, stretching the limits of what a Star Wars movie could be, with a great script and an inventive director. 16. Solo 2, the sequel to Solo, a Star Wars story. Following the hugely successful release of Rogue One, anticipation for Solo, the film focused on one of Star Wars' most famous legacy characters, was sky high. However, the film failed to match that success, earning mixed reviews and performing poorly at the box office, resulting in a pause in the series' spin-off movies for at least the next couple of years. Creative differences among the directors, as well as the divisive casting of Han Solo with Alden Ehrenreich, contributed to Solo, a Star Wars story's issues. Although filmmaker Ron Howard indicated that Solo 2 had not been in the works, writer Joe Kasdan revealed early concepts for a follow-up film that would explore Kira's bond with Crimson Dawn and include Jabba the Hutt. While there had been no official confirmation of Solo 2, Alden Ehrenreich and Emilia Clarke were both signed on for possible future appearances. Despite the poor box office success of Solo, a Star Wars story, there is still reason for speculation about a sequel. A Solo sequel might provide spectators with a better grasp of Han Solo's actual nature and how his history influenced his decision to fight for the rebellion in the Star Wars series. A film like this may enhance the Star Wars world by delving deeper into its complicated workings, while additionally developing the characters of the people that inhabit it. 17. Kevin Feige spinoff. In 2019, word spread about a soon-to-be Star Wars film with Kevin Feige joining the team as its producer. This news generated fan theories, leading to suggestions that Feige could be replacing Kathleen Kennedy as Lucasfilm's president. While these allegations were eventually refuted, the undertaking continued to move ahead, and in May 2022, writer Michael Waldron announced his participation in writing a new Star Wars script under Feige's supervision. Waldron expressed excitement at the prospect of telling a story that deviated from standard sequels or known plots. However, it was announced in early 2023 that the creation of this specific movie had come to a halt because Feige's involvement with Star Wars had to be restricted for the majority of the decade due to his ongoing obligations to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Kathleen Kennedy discussed the issue, stating that the press overstated the project's standing and that it had never progressed past the first phases of development. 18. Lucas's original Star Wars prequels. George Lucas had planned a different route for the Star Wars prequels more than a decade before they came out between 1995 and 2005. According to certain contributors, the early concepts for the films were not the same as what was subsequently released. According to producer Gary Kurtz, the initial goal was to investigate the Clone Wars and the history of the Jedi Knights. The first episode was supposed to provide insight into the creation of the Jedi Order. Furthermore, Kurtz said that Lucas envisioned a more ominous version of Return of the Jedi, in which Han Solo died, Princess Leia assumed the position of Queen, and Luke Skywalker was left alone amid the rebellion's ruins. However, a variety of events, including the difficulties and constraints of finishing the original trilogy, forced Lucas to alter his prequel ideas. Furthermore, advances in CGI technology in the early 1990s offered Lucas with additional visual storytelling options, spurring further adjustments to his initial prequel notions. As a result, the Jedi Knights were presented in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, as a well-established institution with a long history. The prequel films centered on Anakin Skywalker's youth and adolescence before he turned into Darth Vader. These changes were ultimately effective, as the prequel movies received positive feedback from fans and viewers worldwide. Marvelous verdict. To summarize, the Star Wars saga has had its fair number of abandoned and cancelled films throughout the years, highlighting the creative path behind one of cinema's most beloved series. From Jabba the Hutt and the Droids-only spin-offs to the examination of Wookiee society and the development of the Jedi Knights, these unfinished products gave tantalizing insights into unexplored storylines inside the Star Wars world. Some concepts were abandoned owing to creative disagreements or shifting priorities. In contrast, others succumbed to changing business landscapes or the difficulties of bringing grandiose dreams to reality. Nonetheless, the memory of these unfinished and abandoned Star Wars films lives on, sparking fan intrigue and wonder. As the brand continues to change and grow, with new movies and projects engaging fans, it serves as a reminder that not every vision can be fulfilled, even in the vast galaxy far, far away. Nonetheless, Star Wars' endless inventiveness and spirit endure, keeping fans anxiously expecting the next episode in this epic narrative. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone.